What are you supposed to do if you're falsely accused of having committed a crime? That's what we're going to talk about in this video today. My name is Jamahl Kersey. I am the principal attorney at Kersey Law. We're a boutique criminal defense firm in San Diego, California. And in this video, we're talking about false accusations. I hope you've never been accused falsely of a crime, but if you have been, then you know it is one of the most frustrating things you can ever have to go through. I think, it can be frustrating for somebody who actually did commit a crime, right, to end up arrested and facing criminal charges. But for somebody who's innocent and being falsely accused, then, that's even a greater situation to have to deal with. And, false accusations can really dramatically negatively affect somebody's life. You can lose your job over it. You can get arrested, which means that you end up having to pay bail. That's if you're able to get out of custody. Sometimes if you're accused of something serious enough, then you might be denied bail, or the bail might be set so high that you can't even pay it. You can obviously lose your freedom long term. So outside of being denied bail, if you're ultimately convicted of something, you could end up going to jail or going to prison for something that you didn't do. It can cause irreparable reputation damage. If you're accused of something that's ugly enough, that can just put a mark on you in society, making it harder to get jobs in the future, making it harder to get housing. And again, we talk about jobs and housing. And when I talk about housing, I'm not just talking about some sort of government aid housing or Section 8. I just mean I want to apply for an apartment or a condo or a house, and submitting that application, they do a background check and they see something that's ugly enough that could result in you not being able to get the place that you want to live in. And so it's very important that if you find yourself in a situation where you're under investigation for something that you didn't do, or there's a situation where you're made aware that the police might get involved, there can be a situation where somebody tells you that they're going to go to the police and say that you did something and you didn't do it. As soon as one of those triggering events happens, then you need to reach out to a defense attorney immediately. So again, somebody tells you they're going to call the police, or, the police tries to make contact with you. They can either actually find you in the streets, right? If you get pulled over, you get found in the streets, or they could leave a card or leave a note at your house or your job. They can call you, leave you a voicemail message. You need to get on the phone with a criminal defense attorney immediately so that they can explain to you what your rights are and advise you as to how to proceed. 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to tell you to not go into the station to give a statement. It's, on a pretty rare occasion that a criminal defense attorney would advise their client to go in the statement or to go in the station and give a statement. Sometimes that happens, but it is pretty rare. And so one of the things that people oftentimes complain about when it comes to these false accusations is they'll say, well, there's no evidence, right? And they're referring to there being no physical evidence, right? And there may not be any physical evidence, but what they have to understand is the testimony of one single person is evidence, right? So if somebody says, he pushed me hard and then he slapped me, if they were to testify to that in court, then that would be evidence of you having pushed her hard and slapping her, right? So even though there are no marks, there are no bruises or cuts or lacerations, any of that stuff, her testimony that he did this to me is sufficient evidence in order to have a case continue forward. And even in some instances, depending on the circumstances, enough to convict somebody as well. This would be the same with, a sexual assault case or a domestic violence case. So in a lot of these type of situations, there could be the evidence, the main evidence is in the case is the victim's testimony. And so when we're talking about false accusations, part of our investigation surrounds figuring out, like, why are they lying, right? What is the motive for them to make up something and, continue with the lie, right? So if they reported the lie to law enforcement and that results in you getting arrested. And now you end up getting charged with a crime. And some sort of victim's advocate has reached out to them and let them know, hey, we're going to charge John with the crime of corporal injury to a spouse, or we're going to charge John with sexual assault, or we're going to charge John with whatever he's being charged with. And they're like, okay, well, I want justice, right? So if this is going on, then the person's been made aware that the prosecution has made the decision to move forward with charges. And if they haven't gone and said, okay, well, this has gone too far, this is a lie, I made this all up, then for as far as at that point, this case is going to move forward, right? And a lot of times people feel like the truth will eventually set me free, right? Somehow the truth is going to come out, and somehow they're going to come out and say that they lied or that they made this up. And that's how, I'm going to clear my name. Unfortunately, a lot of times that doesn't happen. We can objectively demonstrate that that person is lying about this accusation, and they never come clean. They never admit that they made everything up, and they certainly don't come out and make an apology for dragging you through hell as you're fighting this case. So again, we're looking at the person's motivation for lying in the first place, and one of those things could be in a custody battle. I mean, we oftentimes in a divorce that leads to a custody battle, we know that the gloves get thrown off, and people are just at their worst when they're in a custody battle. And so if somebody wants to get full custody of that child, one of the surefire ways to get an upper hand in a custody battle is to, start up an investigation regarding violence. If you're saying, or if they're accusing John of domestic violence, then they're able to take that police report, they're able to take those criminal charges and say, hey, Your Honor, John's a dangerous man. Look at what he did to me, and he's going to get convicted of domestic violence. I'm concerned about having little Mikey at his house because he drinks so much and he's been violent with me. Again, look at this police report and these charges that have been filed against him. So that is very fertile ground for somebody to make up an offense, or make up a set of facts that leads to charges being filed when you didn't actually do anything wrong. So that's something to be mindful of. It can also be done out of spite. Again, we just talked about a custody battle, but there can be just a breakup, right? There could be a breakup, and one of the exes is left with some bitter feelings, and something happens. They're going to exchange clothes, right? She's going to give you back your sweater, right, that she took from your dresser and never gave you back, and now you want your sweater, and during that exchange, she accuses you of having cheated on her the whole time. You weren't cheating on her, and that leads to yelling back and forth, and then at some point she tries to slap you, and you grab her arms, and you're struggling with her, and then she says, I'm going to call the police and say that you manhandled me, and you're like, you tried to hit me first, right? Like, you came at me and I was just defending myself. Well, that could definitely lead to the cops coming, the cops deciding that, hey, you're the man, so that means you had to have been the aggressor. And you're like, she slapped me. And they're like, yeah, sure, buddy, put you in the handcuffs. And now you're facing a felony domestic violence charge when all you were doing was defending yourself, right? And again, she at this point hates you because you guys have broken up. She's been accusing you of cheating, and now she's doubling down on this lie that you attacked her, and you're facing felony criminal charges. We see in another type of case, again, that can have a very dark and ugly stain on someone's record, and that's child abuse, right? Child abuse in terms of either physical abuse or even sexual abuse towards a child. And unfortunately, there are a lot of false accusations when it comes to child abuse. And what are some of the reasons why a child might lie? And it can be that they're going through trouble at home, right? So if they're going through a very difficult situation at home, or if they're in trouble because they've done something wrong, right? If they've been acting up in school and they've been, just being bad, not paying attention, not doing their homework, just, really messing up, then they can make up a false accusation in order to shift, right? To shift them from being in trouble to then becoming a victim, right? And so now they're getting the attention, they're getting the compassion, they're getting, people talking to them and comforting them, right? So they've been able to alleviate themselves of the trouble they got themselves into by making up a false accusation. And again, this is, it's really tough, especially in these cases involving children where somebody knows that they did nothing wrong, but yet they find themselves accused of something so heinous. What we as criminal defense attorneys do is we work with great investigators in order to find the holes in the story, right? As part of the discovery process, we're going to get the police reports, we're going to get any witness statements, we're going to get body worn camera footage of the officers interviewing people. We're going to get other videos that may have captured any other incidents. We're going to get medical reports if if there's any alleged injuries. We're going to get all that stuff and we're going to go through it. We're going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and then we're going to go through it with you, right? We're going to read all the discovery to you, let you know what's there, so that you're able to give us your take on the evidence, right? Because if they're accusing you of having done something, then you're going to be the one who's able to place the story in its proper context. And you can say, no, this is a lie. This is an exaggeration. I didn't do this. I wasn't even here at this time, or she hit me first. I was just defending myself. I would never do something like this. She's lying because of X, Y, and Z reason. So we really get the opportunity to hear your side of the story, right? To hear your version of the events. And the reality is, when someone lies about something, right? When somebody makes something up, there's going to be holes in the story. And sometimes they can be excellent liars and it can be really difficult to uncover. But at a certain point, we're going to find where that lie is. And not only are we going to be able to expose those lies, but also we can look, because if that person is lying about this, lying about something so big as to, where they couldn't care less that you're getting arrested, you're getting charged with a serious crime, you're facing you're facing a possible conviction and jail time, and that's not enough for them to come clean and say they're telling the truth, then if they're that dishonest, then they're going to be dishonest in other parts of their lives as well. And that's where we can look into certain things to expose where they might have been dishonest, where they might have shown lack of good character, and be able to get all that information together in order to get that to the DA and let them know that, hey, your alleged victim is not going to be a credible witness. See, part of how we negotiate our cases, and whether that's, whether we're trying to negotiate just a better deal than what the offer is on the table, or, in the case of false accusation where our client didn't do anything at all, where we're demanding a dismissal, it's going to be really helpful to our cause to be able to expose that the alleged victim is not a person of good character, right? That the alleged victim is a liar. She steals. She's got a bad drug habit. She's an alcoholic. Whatever her situation is, if we are able to expose those things, that can be really helpful in defending our client's case. The other thing might be actually reaching out to the alleged victim, right? So one thing you have to understand is that once the law enforcement, so whether that's a police officer or a detective, once they've gotten their information from the alleged victim in terms of their side of the story and what happened, a lot of times their communications are done, right? They're not following up with that person and confirming that what they said was true. Pretty much, they're going to take that story and run with it. They'll get their file over to the DA. The DA reviews it, and then they see, they're looking at this case file and they're deciding, was there a crime committed? And if so, which section of the penal code were violated? And do we think we can prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt? And if the answer is yes, then they're going to file the charges. And they may not have had any contact whatsoever with the alleged victim in the case. So the DA, who might, be a few months into a case, right? So you've had your arraignment, you've had multiple readiness conferences and status conferences, and the DA has never had not one word with the alleged victim, right? Because unless a case is going to some sort of hearing where there's going to be testimony taken, then they don't need to have any conversation with the alleged victim to push the case forward. Because if 90+% of cases resolve in some sort of plea agreement, then there's never going to have been that need for the DA to actually interact with the alleged victim. So they don't, they're not able to, take any position on the credibility of this person or, their character, whether it's good or bad. So that's where, if we've done our investigation and are able to present this information to the DA, we're always trying to give them a preview of what would happen if the case were to go to trial. And so if we're able to expose them as somebody who's not going to be credible, then that can be really persuasive in taking just one extra step towards getting what we want, which is them dismissing the case. So reaching out to the alleged victim, having our investigator reach out to them, that can be very effective too, because we have had situations where our investigator reaches out to the alleged victim and they actually admit that, okay, I made this up. I mean, it's few and far between, but there have been situations where that happened. And you can get a range of responses, right? Sometimes the alleged victim will double down on the lies, right? We have objective proof that they're lying and they're like, I don't care. This is what happened and he did it to me and I want him to be buried under the jail, right? So you can have a response where, they're doubling down on the lies. You can also have a response where they're like, I don't want to talk to you, because they're not obligated to talk to our defense investigator. They can if they want to, but they're certainly not obligated to do so. And then, like I said, in some rare occasions, we'll have the admission where the person, comes clean and says that they were lying about the whole thing. And if we get that, then that's amazing, because now, we have a report. We're able to get over to the DA. Hey, this person, admitted that they lied about everything. You need to do the right thing and dismiss this case. So, we're doing the investigation regarding the actual facts of the case. But then if you've watched enough of my videos, you know that we are really big on getting to know our client's story, who they are as a person. And those items are what's going to end up going in what's called a mitigation packet. And, the purpose of that in the context of somebody who's falsely accused is to demonstrate that our client is not the type of person who would even do something like this in the first place, right? And you may think like, hey, I shouldn't have to prove my good character when I know I didn't do anything wrong, right? If I didn't touch this woman inappropriately, or if everything that we did was consent, or I didn't lay a hand on her in the context of DV, or any of these type of offenses, if you didn't do anything wrong, it's very easy, and rightfully so, I get it. It's very easy to say, I don't want to have to show anything about my good character because I didn't do anything wrong. They should just do the right thing and dismiss the case. Again, you have to trust us as defense attorneys on this. It just works a lot better for us to get positive letters of support, speaking to your good character, speaking to your great work history, your education history, how good of a father, brother, son you are, how good of a cousin you are. Just all these wonderful people who can say amazing things about you goes a long way in demonstrating that you would never do the type of thing that you're ultimately accused of. And so by packaging up that information, sitting down and interviewing you about, your life's goals and what you want for yourself, what you want for your family, what your financial goals are, what your career goals are, what your history is, just, really personalizing things, right? Because understand, the DA doesn't know anything about you except for the lies that ended up in the police report, right? And always, if there was charges that were filed, generally speaking, I mean, whatever's said in that police report is going to make you look really bad. So we really have to balance that out with the positive information, and that can go a really long way in helping us get where we're trying to go. The other thing to take into consideration is you should be prepared to take the stand to ultimately clear your name. And that can be really helpful as well in order to demonstrate to the DA that, hey, if my client takes the stand, he's going to be able to look in that juror's eyes and be able to tell them straight up that he did not do this. He would never do something like this. He's never done anything like this before. And these are all lies. This is absurd and this case needs to ultimately be dismissed. And the more confidence the defense attorney has based on the time that we've spent with the client, the more compelling that's going to be. Because, at least for me, when I tell the DA, if they don't know me and they're not aware of my reputation, when I tell the DA that I'm asking for a dismissal, I don't throw around the word dismissal lightly. I don't throw around the word dismissal lightly with clients, and I don't throw the word around dismissal. I don't throw the word dismissal around lightly with DAs. Because if you're going around and saying just every case should be dismissed, then that's a really easy way to burn and ruin your credibility. So when I do say that, on that rare occasion, I'm telling them, hey, you're not going to be able to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt for X, Y, and Z reasons, then that has a lot more weight and credibility because they know I don't throw that around often. And so, they could believe, right? And they could agree and decide to dismiss, or they could say, you know what, we don't believe your client. We believe the alleged victim. And so if it's going to have to go to trial, then it has to go to trial. And so then, at that point, we get you prepared for trial and have you prepared to take the stand to clear your name. So when it comes to false accusations, again, I understand it can be one of the most frustrating things that someone ever has to deal with, but there's absolutely hope. There's definitely hope. A lot does come down to having the right defense attorney in your corner, somebody who has experience, somebody who is really good at what they do, and someone who cares, and someone who has the time and availability to dedicate the time and resources that are necessary in order to put you in the best possible position to clear your name. Well, that's it for this video. Leave me a comment below if you learned something new, if you have any questions about anything that I just said. Show me some love, hit that like button, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications so you never miss a new video when it drops. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.